roll-in phase for the campaign to get people the materials they need to get started and really get ready to promote it. So I'll tell you a little bit about what went into the consideration for this. So when we went through the Centennial planning, we actually had a meeting at Walt Disney World in 2015. And at that point, the committee came together and really determined that we wanted to celebrate the past and future impact of the organization. Use it as an opportunity to enhance brand awareness, not as a fundraiser per se, and then inspire stakeholders to increase engagement with the organization. So some of the key learnings, we actually spoke with other organizations and agencies that worked in this space, and some of the things that we learned is that sometimes organizations go down this road and they start focusing too much on the past, so we really wanted to, like we said, honor and pay tribute, but at the same time have a future focus component to it as well, and that's certainly what I'll be showing you as part of this. Set clear objectives, which was really important. That's kind of when we came down to the brand awareness piece. Instead of trying to do fundraising and recruit volunteers and do all these other things, we really wanted to focus on one key area to make sure we could do it. And then focus on a few things and do them well. And that's one thing that we've heard from a lot of organizations, which is that they came up with all these great ideas and nothing got executed because they couldn't prioritize, they couldn't kind of focus their resources on where they needed to be. So those were what we went into with this. There were three key areas that we were looking at as part of this: the awareness part, the events part, and alumni. And so in terms of the awareness piece, and you may have seen some of this around the conference, so the tagline that we came up with, this is just for the Centennial, is 100 years, 100% ready. We actually did this in conjunction with Publicis Hawkeye, which is a marketing firm out of Dallas, and Capital One donated their services to do this. And really the 100% ready works on a couple of levels. First of all, it's talking about getting kids to be 100% ready. And so we've put together a public awareness campaign around that. So you hear all these statistics that 60% of them are employers. 60% of employers can't find skilled workers. Only 50% of kids have an interest in STEM. Only 24% actually pursue it. There's all kinds of statistics, and our goal is to be part of the solution to help kids get 100% ready. The other part of it, and if you've seen the Timeless video that we've sent around, is to highlight that junior achievement itself is 100% ready, 100% ready for the future. Because we're in an environment right now where you've got new organizations, startup organizations, social enterprise entities that are out there kind of competing in our space. And so, and it's interesting, a lot of our funders actually are doing a lot of this stuff on their own in lieu of working with junior achievement. So we really wanted to put a statement out there saying that junior achievement is relevant, more relevant today than ever, that we're 100% ready to take on the challenges of our next century. And so that really went into what we were doing. The other thing in terms of the campaign itself, so we've got television spots, we've got digital advertising pieces, we've got social media content, and really what we wanted to do was highlight, kind of focus on where kids are today, and some of the things that they're doing today. They're involved in video games, they're involved in sports, and they have hobbies. There's things that they're doing, and they're kind of going along with life, but at the same time, they are not getting what they need to be 100% successful. Not specifically tied to this, but we actually have just done some research with a group called Population Research Bureau out of DC, and there's this concept called disconnected youth. And disconnected youth would be defined as someone between the ages of 16 and 14 someone who's not going to college, not working, and really have no prospects to do either. What's interesting is we compared it to that population in 1970. Today, those kids are coming from better educated households. So what's happening now is every kid has the potential of being at risk. It's no longer just about the poor kids. It's really across our spectrum of our society. A lot of it has to do with the changing future of work, the skills that are needed by employers now in the next 10 years, and how do we get kids ready. So it really ties into, I think, a lot of the things that are happening out there right now. One of the things that is really cool that we've been able to do is we are producing a PBS documentary. This was actually made possible through the support of American Honda Finance and Coca-Cola, and I can show you a brief commercial about it. It's about 2 minutes. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So hopefully after I do this, I can get it working.
Do you also have that other video you were talking about with you?
The 100% ready. I can. Let me see if I can find
It's quite good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, put it on our website.
Imagine you are blind. Now imagine the struggle of trying to get dressed in the morning.
Being homeless isn't just about not having a place to stay, it's about not having that family. And Junior Achievement found me that family.
Going into JA and they told me that I could be a CEO was just the craziest thing to me ever.
If I get kicked out of high school, I don't know where I'd be. Probably in jail or in a graveyard somewhere. Who does this?
They are learning by doing.
Young people needed to have skills that would allow them to take their place in the new workforce.
Wherever teenage youth gathers today, Junior Achievement is news. Good news.
Who makes it this long? There's just not a lot of entities that have made it to 100 years.
You've got an organization that's got both breadth and depth in terms of offerings, but in terms of lives that they've touched.
Junior Achievement represents so much of what is right with America. This isn't just about creating little business people. This is about creating people that have the confidence that they can go out in life and do things.
No, we're all in high school.
Yes.
You're in high school?
Yes. I'm 17 years old and my junior achievement company is called Feel the Color.
I tell young people, I guarantee you, you will think about money every day until you die. 20 years ago, many young people were saying that they wanted to be professional athletes. Today, what we're finding is they want to own their own business. They want to conquer.
So who's gonna make a difference in this world and make some profit at the same time?
No wires, no Bluetooth, no battery.
Who wants to do some serious business? I wouldn't be here today without Junior Achievement. I mean, it was that important.
So that's going to be out in February on PBS. And what's interesting, Jacayla Dixon, the African American girl in the beginning of it, her company has gotten a $2 million investment. And she said if it wasn't for Junior Achievement, she would never have done her company. So it's pretty amazing when you hear stories like this. A future Mark Cuban right there. So I'll go through the presentation, and if I can, I'll try to find the video. I'm not sure if I have it lined up here, but. So we got the PBS, and then we're doing some other things. Oh, by the way, before I do this, so also the footage that you saw in there in the spot, we actually went through and digitized a bunch of the photos and video that we have in our library. So that's where that came from, and those links will be available to everyone. We've got it broken out by decade and everything. So it's really, really set up. And then obviously having the archivist come out and the work she's done, that's going to be very helpful for us in terms of keeping everything going forward. The other thing I mentioned, we're going to have a time capsule go around the country and collecting items that can be used and stored. We're eventually going to do with it is we're going to house it at the museum. We actually, and I don't know if you shared that, USA had made a $10,000 investment to update the museum, and I think there's a match with the Pioneers or about $5,000 or something. Yeah. So we've actually put in new video monitors. We've put in UV blocking, tinting on the windows because it was fading everything, and we're in the process of reorganizing the exhibit to probably break it up more from a chronological standpoint. I believe you all are going to be there in September,
Yes.
So we will have that ready for you guys to look at when you come here. So that'll be something to share as well. And the time capsule will be at the museum when we're done with it. So that's where it's going to be housed. Talking a bit about the Population Research Bureau, I just talked about that data. That'll be something that we'll be using. In March, we're going to be at the bell ringing at the New York Stock Exchange. We're actually, every year we have a volunteer summit event in New York City where we have business leaders from across the country. We acknowledge their volunteers. We're doing it at the New York Stock Exchange, and we'll be doing the bell ringing. We're expecting it to be a pretty well attended, great event. National Student Summit. One of the things that we had talked about was not creating separate events, but using existing events and doing a Centennial tie to it. And so during our Student Summit in Washington, D.C. in June, we'll certainly be doing that. I think there's been some conversations of somehow engaging the pioneers and alum in that, so that's something I think we'll be working on as we go forward. And same thing with the National Leadership Conference in Colorado Springs. We're going to have folks coming out for that, and I'll be having tours at the USA building. And that'll be kind of like where we do the 100th anniversary birthday cake, that kind of thing. Something that I have not shared with you all yet, we just signed the paperwork for it. So the Big E, the Eastern States Exposition in Springfield, Massachusetts, where Junior Achievement was started. You get the Eastern States League building. We are going to have Junior Achievement Day there, September 28th of 2019. Everyone's invited. We're going to put information out to folks. It's going to be, I think we can have up to about 150 people there. We're going to have a parade float, so the whole day will be dedicated to junior achievement. So that'll be a nice way to help celebrate what we're doing. Another thing that I want to show you, and this will actually be part of the museum exhibit as well. We have a augmented reality exhibit that every single JA office has received. And I'll show you a brief video of it to try to conceptualize what it is, but the way the augmented reality works is you put an app on your phone, and then there's items, like posters that will be triggers that make this work. So I'll show you the video. It's really, when you see it in person, it makes a lot more sense, but hopefully this helps demonstrate how it works. So these are the posters.
In the early 1900s, you wouldn't want to be found lollygagging on the farm. Times were changing. Teens needed a new set of skills to make it in the big city. Enter the Boys and Girls Bureau of the Eastern States League. Fast forward to the 40s. JA kids produced supplies for our armed forces, giving teens even greater purpose. Take this. After World War II, the JA Company after-school program put students in the shoes of business people, forming companies, selling stocks, that sort of stuff. It was the bee's knees. Then came the 60s, man, and junior achievement started to go global. In 100 years, JA has reached 100 million people. Thanks, junior achievement, for getting the next generation 100% ready to lead the world.
So that'll also be part of the exhibit in the screens.
Good.
And then again, the digital archive piece that I mentioned, great video of Odette Funicello. I don't know if you remember that. Make it with Junior Achievement. Lots of really great films that we had back in the 60s and 70s that are now available for folks to look at. So really, really cool stuff. And then obviously all the work that the pioneers have been doing with the Connect Alumni. Here's the our Cuban piece where we got all kinds of great traffic. And also Juju Chang with her promotion. And then a couple of books, Entrepreneurial Attitude, which was put together by Larry Farrell for JA Worldwide. He interviewed 70 alumni from around the world, talked about how their JA experience helped influence them to be successful. And another thing that I know the Worldwide folks are working on is the history book. They're actually going to be doing it more of a coffee table type book with photos. I think Terry or Ashish may have talked to you about that. So that's something that they're in the process of working on right now. That should be available before 2019. So that's the overview. I can certainly track down the time of this video, but before I do that, are there questions?
So how many are you expecting to attend the meeting in Colorado Springs? Have you got an assessment of what you're?
At this point, I don't know. I mean, we've had about 250 people here, so it's probably going to be in the 250 to 300 range. I'm not sure what the total will be. Yeah. We're working through that now. Yeah, right.
Will there be an opportunity for supporters to come in, funders and.
Yeah, so we actually had, that was an interesting conversation that we had. We actually, that we were gonna have a day in the beginning where we were gonna have high-level supporters come in, and we've had conversations with folks, and the challenge is getting folks to come to Colorado Springs. To be perfectly honest, that's sort of the reason why we do the Volunteer Summit in New York, because folks, you know, can kind of find a reason to go to New York. Colorado Springs, unless you've got a connection there, it's not the easiest place to get to if you're you know, if you're not from there, so.
Is there some event that you're going to tie this into, though, through the year that's typically tied to supporters, business leaders?
Well, the Volunteer Summit would be the closest
That's
to
the
that,
one.
yeah. I mean, it's, you know, it's interesting, the summit is sort of the same concept as the Hall of Fame in terms of who we would invite to be there. We
Okay.
don't, it's not like we honor laureates, but that kind of audience is who attends
And
it.
I think you need to explain what the volunteer summit is. I know what it is and
Yeah.
who we honor, but
Yeah.
about the companies, it's not the volunteer
Right.
as much as the companies that provide.
Right, so the Volunteer Summit, so there's a couple components to it. George W. Bush started the President's Volunteer Service Award back in, I think it was 2006. And we are actually an official certifying body of that award. And so what we do is each year, you know, companies that commit, you know, more than 5,000 volunteer hours, 10,000 or 15,000 can get a bronze, silver, or gold President's Volunteer Service Award. And so what we do is we use the summit as the opportunity to honor those companies, and they'll send the representatives. So it's companies like KPMG and Accenture and Bank of America, I mean, major corporations. They typically send fairly senior level people to come and receive that honor. And some places that we've held it in the past, we just had it at the UN, we've done it at the NASDAQ, you know, we've done it at the New York Times building, we've done it at the Paley Center, which is the CBS Paley Center. So it's usually a fairly well-attended, pretty prestigious ceremony. And then the other part of it is we do our Gold Leadership Award recognition there. So, you know, the folks that have been very involved over the years, typically at the board level, bring them in, and that's where we do it. I know we used to do it as part of the Hall of Fame, but now that's specifically how we honor those individuals.
And will there be any international piece of this, or are we making this purely the U.S.?
So there is an international component to it. What's interesting, so Boston is good, or JA Worldwide is going to be doing a gala in Boston in May. The interesting thing that's kind of happened as we've gone through it is a lot of the countries and the regions, they're celebrating what they call a JA 100. The challenge is they don't necessarily have that same association with the history, since most of them have only been around, you know, 10, 20, maybe 40, 50 years, but those are UK. So they don't necessarily have that same connection with the anniversary, so they're sort of doing it on a cursory basis. And so it's kind of gravitated back to the United States, even though I know Worldwide really try to push it as more of a global thing. And there will be some global elements to it, but it's probably primarily going to be the event they're doing in May. It's going to be the global focus.
But they have a big event. Will we, from a U.S. perspective, not we pioneers, but in general, be involved in that? Is that known to be something we're all doing together, or is that a separate?
It's something that they're doing that I believe we will be invited to. I don't know how it's looking at you. I don't know what we're doing.
It's a fundraising.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a big ticket
Yeah.
fundraising event.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So.
Just for, we're going to, tomorrow, we're going to spend some time in here talking about